6 words stopped one of history's most dangerous generals. That's what they tell you. The problem? It's a lie. And the real story is far more brutal. September 1944, a plane on a Brussels runway. Bernard Montgomery walks in demanding absolute control of the war. Dwight Eisenhower sits with an injured knee, unable to stand. One of them will leave humiliated. The other will reshape how World War II ends. But here's what the History Channels won't tell you. The famous confrontation everyone talks about, it never happened the way they describe it. The operation name they keep repeating, wrong. The hero of the story, actually the cautious one. The whole narrative is backwards. So why does everyone get it so catastrophically wrong? Let me show you how broken this story really is. 6 words that won World War II. Count with me. Steady, money. You can't talk to me like that. I'm your boss. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 words, not 6. You might think this is pedantic. It's not. Because if they can't count to 12, what else did they get wrong? And the answer should terrify you. The quote itself? Probably accurate. Eisenhower did say something like this. But when your entire video title is built on a number you can't even verify, you're not doing history. You're doing mythology. Here's the question you should be asking. Why does everyone repeat this story without checking it? What else are they repeating without checking? The narrators tell you Montgomery launched Operation Market Garden. There's no such operation. The actual name was Market Garden. Market for the airborne drop. Garden for the ground advance. It's not a small mistake. It's the name of one of the most famous operations of the entire war. Getting it wrong is like calling D-Day B-Day. But here's what's disturbing. This error appears in video after video, script after script. They're copying each other. None of them are checking. And if they're wrong about the name, what are they wrong about the plan itself? Now we get to the biggest lie of all. Every video portrays Montgomery the same way. Bold, aggressive, demanding action while everyone else hesitates. They paint him as the risk-taker who wanted to win the war with one decisive stroke. The real Montgomery was the exact opposite. Bernard Montgomery was methodical, cautious. He never attacked without overwhelming superiority. He planned everything down to the last detail. His subordinates called him careful to the point of paranoia. Patton called him something much worse. Market Garden wasn't typical Montgomery. It was the opposite of everything he'd ever done. And that's precisely why it failed so spectacularly. Think about this. If Montgomery was really the aggressive, bold commander these videos claim, why did he spend weeks preparing for every other battle? Why did the Americans constantly complain about his caution? Why did Churchill have to push him forward after El Alamein? The answer is simple. They needed a narrative where bold Montgomery fights cautious Eisenhower. So they invented a Montgomery who never existed. Here's where the story gets genuinely dark. The videos tell you Patton ran out of fuel because of logistics, physics, mathematics. The trucks couldn't deliver fast enough. Partially true, but incomplete in a way that changes everything. Yes, the Red Ball Express was real. Yes, supply lines were stretched. But in September 1944, Eisenhower made a choice. He deliberately diverted Patton's fuel to Montgomery. Not because the supplies didn't exist, because he chose Market Garden over Patton's advance. Patton was furious. He called it criminal. He believed he could have reached the German border before they reorganized. Was he right? We'll never know, because Eisenhower chose Montgomery's plan instead. Now ask yourself, why do the videos never mention this? Why do they frame it as pure logistics when it was actually a command decision? What narrative are they protecting? Here's the moment everyone gets backwards. The Brussels confrontation didn't stop Montgomery's plan. Eisenhower approved Market Garden? The 6 words that supposedly shut Montgomery down? They came right before Eisenhower said yes. Read that again. Montgomery demanded everything. Eisenhower refused total control. Then Eisenhower approved the operation anyway. Montgomery got his airborne assault. He got his attempt to cross the Rhine. He got 20,000 paratroopers and an armored corps. The confrontation didn't stop Montgomery. It just stopped him from commanding American forces while doing it. So what really happened at Arnhem, and why does it prove everyone wrong about everything? September 17, 1944, Market Garden begins. The videos tell you it was 90% successful. Montgomery himself said this, but watch what that really means. At Eindhoven, success. Bridge captured. At Nijmegen, success after heavy fighting. Bridge captured. At Arnhem, complete disaster. Bridge never captured. 90% successful means the entire strategic objective failed. It's like saying a surgery was 90% successful because only the patient died. But here's what's chilling. The failure wasn't bad luck. It was predictable. Two SS Panzer divisions sat near Arnhem, refitting after France. Intelligence knew they were there. Montgomery's staff saw the reports. They launched anyway. Why? Because Montgomery had convinced himself the Germans were finished, that they couldn't fight, that boldness would win. The cautious, methodical Montgomery made a gambler's bet, and 10,000 Allied soldiers paid for it. The radios failed. The resupply drops landed in German hands. British paratroopers landed miles from their objective. XXX Corps advanced on a single road where one destroyed tank blocked everything. It wasn't 90% successful. It was a catastrophe wrapped in propaganda. March 1945. The videos tell you multiple armies crossed the Rhine together. Wrong again. Patton crossed first, March 22nd at Oppenheim. Small assault boats, minimal preparation. He did it partly because it worked, and partly to humiliate Montgomery. Montgomery crossed the next day at Wesel. Massive preparation, artillery bombardment, airborne assault, everything by the book. But here's the moment that reveals everything. When Patton called to tell Bradley he'd crossed, he added, "Don't tell Monty, I want it to be a surprise." This wasn't just military strategy. This was personal, and that's what the videos never explain. The relationship between these commanders was toxic. The alliance was always one insult away from collapse. And there's one more thing they never mention. The Remagen Bridge, captured intact by the U.S. First Army on March 7th, 2 weeks before anyone else crossed. Not planned, not strategic, just seized by a lieutenant who saw an opportunity. Why don't the videos mention Remagen? Because it destroys the narrative. It shows the war wasn't won by Montgomery's precision or Eisenhower's grand strategy. It was won by chaos and opportunity. December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes, Germany's last gamble. The videos tell you this proved Eisenhower right, that the broad front allowed flexibility, that Patton turned north in 48 hours. All true, but incomplete in a way that almost destroyed the alliance. Montgomery was given temporary command of American forces north of the Bulge. Militarily sound, politically catastrophic. Bradley threatened to resign. Patton was apoplectic. The American commanders believed Montgomery was stealing credit for their victory. Then Montgomery held a press conference. He implied British forces saved the Americans. He suggested American commanders had failed. Eisenhower had to call Churchill. The alliance came within hours of shattering, not from German attack, from ego. And this is what every video glosses over. The 6 words in Brussels didn't save the alliance. Eisenhower spent the entire war saving it, decision by decision, insult by insult, ego by ego. So did 6 words win World War II? No, that's absurd. The Soviets were already in Poland. American industry outproduced the entire Axis combined. The German army was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. The strategic bombing campaign was destroying cities. The naval blockade was starving Japan. One conversation in Brussels didn't win anything. But here's what did matter. Eisenhower understood something Montgomery never did. This wasn't just a military problem. It was a political one. The alliance was the weapon. If it broke, Germany might survive long enough to develop wonder weapons, to split the Allies diplomatically, to negotiate some kind of peace. Eisenhower kept them together, not through brilliance, through patience, through ego management, through compromise. Montgomery wanted to be Alexander. Eisenhower chose to be the man who made sure Alexander had an army. The next time someone tells you a story about World War II, count the words. Check the operation names. Ask who they're turning into heroes and why. Because history isn't what happened. History is what we choose to remember and what we choose to forget. And right now we're choosing to remember a myth about 6 words instead of the truth about 6 years. The question is, what else are we getting wrong?